Hello everybody, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast and welcome to my League One predictions. We haven't done a predictions episode for a while, but to be fair, we haven't actually had a full scheduled amount of League One games for a while, so I'm really glad to be back. We've got some huge games this weekend and I cannot wait to get stuck into them. Of course, I want to hear from you in the comments down below. Like I said, some huge clashes this weekend, some significant clashes with teams at the top, teams who wanted to get to the top, teams at the bottom, some really interesting games. I can't wait to delve into them, predicting and previewing them as we always like to do. I want to hear from you though in the comments down below. As always, give your thoughts to my predictions, but most importantly, your predictions as well. It's really important, and I love hearing what you've got to say. I love the discussions we get in the comments down below. So be part of that, and don't be afraid to leave a comment. We'll be part of the journey and subscribe. It's free to do that. Hit that red button. We're on the current quite long road, but we can still get there. I believe we can get there to 1,000 subscribers. We can't do it without you subscribing. So if you enjoy what you see, what you hear, please hit that subscribe button. It's free. We've got some really exciting pieces of content coming to the channel. Like I said, the support recently and the support for quite a long time has been absolutely unbelievable. So please be part of that journey. Hit that subscribe button. It's free to do so. Also, that notification bell just next to the little bell thing. Hit that as well, because that way you'll be notified whenever I go live or do a recorded episode just like this one. You'll get a notification to your phone, tablet, computer, whatever. So you'll never miss an episode of the podcast. And also, if you enjoyed what you hear as well, you can hit that like button. It's another way of supporting the podcast. It's really helpful. It helps the growth of the podcast, which is obviously something I really am passionate on doing. So please hit the thumbs up button as well. Other than that, let's get straight into it, starting off with Burton, Albion and AFC Wimbledon. We've got, like I said, a full set of League One games this weekend, so no time to mess around. Let's get straight into it, starting off at Burton Albion as they host AFC Wimbledon. For Burton, their most recent form has been fairly good. 2 wins and a draw. Their most recent game did end in a win. Before that, it did have 2 losses. But recently, like I said, the most recent form is really what we can only go on. Has been really quite impressive. I guess 6 points from a possible, 7 points away from a possible 9 is not bad at all. Only dropping 2 points from from those last 3 games. Something that I think Burton Albion fans will be fairly happy with. I think I've been actually really impressed with what they've done in the transfer market as well. They are bringing in some numbers. They are bringing in players. And for Burton, who are currently sat in 12th in the league, I think bringing in numbers, helping that squad out. I think the games now we're going to see squads quite changing, with new players coming in, but also the second half of the season you've now got to get really going in terms of we are now getting into this part of the season. It sounds stupid. We're already we are out now. I guess moving into second half of the season. I think we probably are now in the second half of the season. Some teams have played more and less, so it's quite difficult to judge. But generally, this is the business end now. We need to start seeing the teams who have aspirations to sort of talk about the top 6 or have even higher aspirations or want to try and get out of the predicament they find themselves in, maybe relegation battle. We'll come on to AFC Wimbledon in just a second. This is the time to start recruiting, but also starting to get some important runs together. And for Burton, it looks like they're already doing that, and they're going to try and want to continue that on Saturday as they play against AFC Wimbledon. With Wimbledon, it's a little bit concerning. It's a worrying part of the season for them. 24 games into it, they have got a few games in hand on a few teams around them. So that that's a promising position. But their actual position in the league sense isn't great. 20th in the league. That's 1 place above that relegation zone. However, they've got a 3-point cushion, like I said, and also as well a 3-point cushion with 2 games in hand as well. It's it's not the worst position you find yourself in, but their recent form of not getting a win in 5 will be a concern. They've drawn their last 2 games, but 3 draws and 2 defeats. It's a little bit concerning. It's going to be something that going into the window now, they're going to have to be really good at. I say going into the window, we're 20 days into this January transfer window, so it'd be really interesting to see how this continues and how teams around that zone, not just AFC Wimbledon, how are able to recruit into this squad to improve. I believe AFC Wimbledon have done some business, so that's really promising. It's quite difficult to judge that business, though, based on players that we don't know too much about or have played at a level that we're not too sure about. But generally, look at it from this sense, it's going to be a really interesting game. But I think Burton are going to edge it. A home advantage, they're in better form. It's going to be worrying if AFC Wimbledon do lose this game. There will be a sense of concern there. But I think Burton are going to win it, and I'm going to go with 2-0 Burton. I think they will win this game fairly comfortably. Next then, we've got Cambridge United against Crewe Alexandra. Cambridge United currently find themselves in a really respectable position of 13th, so 1 place below Burton. For a newly promoted side, Cambridge, just below that exact mid-table spot is so impressive. I've been so impressed with Cambridge United this season. Amazing recent FA Cup victory against Newcastle as well. They look really good, and what they're doing at that football club at the moment, I've been so impressed by. Crewe Alexandra, though, they are still in a bit of a battle when it comes to relegation. There has been a slight improvement recently. recently. They're currently no longer bottom. They're 22nd, but they are still 5 points away from safety. Their recent form has been okay. A draw and a win before that, and then a loss in there, and then another win, and then another loss. Fairly inconsistent, but generally the last 2 games, a win and a draw. It is fairly good. And we're sort of seeing now this Crewe side, I think, slowly not gel, but slowly improve. I think we're slowly seeing different aspects of this Crewe side sort of come together. A lot of issues that happened going back at the summer, that we are now seeing a bit of consistency from Crewe in a positive sense. We saw a lot of consistency when it comes to defeats. We're now starting to see some positive consistency, which of course is really, really important and significant if you are going to be successful in this league. For Crewe now, all focus has to be on staying up. I think, before the start of the season, Crewe was probably consolidating what was a very, very good first year back in League One, but now I think it is now going up, and playing against Cambridge United won't be easy away from home. I sense a draw in this one, though. I do sense a draw. Although Cambridge are doing fantastically well, I think Crewe are now slowly building this sort of sense of positive consistency, and they need to get some points on the board. I've been impressed with Crewe, best with Crewe as of late. So I'm going to go with the draw, and I'm going to go with 1-1. I'm going to go Cambridge United 1, Crewe Alexandra 1. Charlton against Fleetwood, and Charlton are currently sat in 15th, so not great. They haven't won a game in the last 4. They've had 3 defeats and a draw. They're not in great form at all, and for Johnny Jackson and for Charlton, they really need to start picking some wins up and start improving, because quite simply, it hasn't been good enough as of late. I think when Johnny Jackson first came in, I think we were all very, very impressed with what we saw, but now I think there's a real worrying hit of form they currently find themselves in. They need to get that out as quickly as possible. It's not going to be easy playing against Fleetwood, though. They've made some really good additions in the transfer market, and also I think are doing really quite well. I think they're currently sat in 19th. They've won their last 2 games, and I've been so impressed with Fleetwood recently. They've done a fantastic job. They beat Lincoln, I believe, really, really recently. That was the last game. I believe they beat Rotherham. Sorry, not Lincoln. Rotherham 1-0. I knew it was a side that were doing well at the moment. Rotherham winning that game, and I've been so impressed with them, and I think for Fleetwood now, they've brought in Harrison in the transfer window. I was absolutely really quite impressed with that signing. A lot of teams wanted Harrison, and to bring him in, he scored a goal as well in the game before the Rotherham one. That for me is a really, really good improvement. It's a really good striking option. So I think Fleetwood are going to give Charlton a really good game. Charlton need a win here, and it's not easy at home against this Fleetwood side, but I think they might get it. And I'm going to go with a really narrow 2-1 win. And although, Charlton aren't doing very well, and Fleetwood, on the other hand, are doing quite well, I still think Charlton might edge. Just the home advantage for me is something that's really important. It's been something important a bit for a lot of teams this season. When we talk about a lot of games, the home advantage has been really, really significant. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 Charlton win, but I expect Fleetwood to really put a difficult game up for Charlton, who aren't in good form. They need to turn it around as quickly as possible. I think they can do it this Saturday. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to go with Charlton 2, Fleetwood Town 1. Next then, we've got Ipswich Town as they host Accrington Stanley. Ipswich had a bit of a disappointing result, their first defeat under Kieran McKenna last time out. And that'll be disappointing for Kieran McKenna, losing a game against Bolton Wanderers 2-0. They weren't great at all. And that'll be something that Kieran McKenna now looks at. And he'll look at that now, and he wants to see an improvement. He'll want to see this. I guess it'd be interesting now what Kieran McKenna's response is going to be to this, because we haven't seen him in a managerial role lose before. We've seen him in a coaching role lose a few times at Manchester United, but not as a manager. How is he going to respond to that? How is he going to react to that? And I think that's going to be really quite interesting. Like I said, we can't take away what he's done so far. He beat Gillingham 4-0. It is their first defeat of the season, but they did very, very well, Bolton, against Ipswich, and Ipswich didn't look good at all. So that's going to be something they got to look at. And like I said, it's the first time we need to see a reaction from Kieran McKenna. I think in this game we need to see it, and Ipswich need to see it. Not an easy game to get a reaction from, though. A team that haven't lost in 5 games. It could be more than that. We are looking at a block of 5. It's the way I like to do it. And I've been really, really impressed with Accrington this season. So impressed. I think they're a side that I say it every single time we do a predictions episode, but they're a banana skin for sides, and they're a banana skin for teams like Ipswich, for teams like Charlton, for teams like Plymouth, MK Dons, Wycombe, Wigan, who are up there already, and teams that have aspirations and want to get into that league and are pushing to get up the top of the table. They are a banana skin, and they prove such difficulty. So this is going to be a really quite difficult game for Ipswich, and like I said, the first time we need to see Kieran McKenna get a reaction, it's not an easy game. The thing that I think is going to edge him slightly and edge Ipswich to it, slightly, is the home advantage. We speak about it a lot, but so many teams have got this home advantage this season. We are seeing it creep back into the game. For a while, it wasn't the case with no fans, but we are seeing that. We saw it against Bolton, I think. Again, Ipswich. Bolton, home side, 2-0. Have made good improvements, but I've been really impressed with the sort of the home side of a lot of teams this season. I think Ipswich are going to win this game, but again, similar to Charlton Fleetwood, it's similar in that sense. Both sides are playing that need a response and need results against sides that really can cause damage and have done this season. But I'm going to go with a win here for Ipswich, and I'm going to go with 1-0. So tight, but I think they're going to do it. I just think they will. I think Kieran McKenna needs to see a reaction. He'll want to see a reaction. Home advantage at Portman Road. They're going to get behind him. I think I'm going to go with 1-0 in that game. Next, and we've got MK Dons against Doncaster. MK Dons are currently sat in 5th and in really quite good form. Two wins the last games, and before that as well, they're unbeaten in the last 5. 2 draws, 3 wins in that sort of block of 5. For Doncaster, it's 5 defeats, and it's looking worrying for Doncaster. Rock bottom of the League One table. Improvements and a desperate need for improvements needs to come into it. You know, they've permanently brought in GAMEWEEK Sheffield, I believe his name is, and we are now seeing numbers for Doncaster, which is important. Are they the sort of players that are going to get him out of the league? Well, it looked like 2 players with quite coming from very good clubs and players that look quite exciting. A centre back, it looks like for Younger, the lad from Sunderland, and a winger, Martin from Norwich City. I don't know. We don't know enough about them to judge on it, and so far, we do need to see an improvement in Doncaster. How's that going to happen? 16 points at the moment is just simply not good enough. 18 defeats. They're drift by 11 points. It's worrying. Really worrying. But they're playing against a side, like I said, MK Dons, who are doing very well, and for a long time have been pushing to try and get back into the Championship and trying to get into that top 6. This season, they look like they're on their way of doing that. So, really impressed with them so far. Their recent form's been good. Doncaster, yes, we've just rounded out. They've brought in 2 new players, and top of the third, so 3 altogether. But I just still don't really think they're good enough to compete with MK Dons at the moment. So I'm going to go with 3-0 to MK Dons. Quite comfortable. MK Dons are flying at the moment. They're doing a fantastic job. They've got some fantastic attacking players, and I think Doncaster are going to really struggle in this game. Next, we've got Morecambe against Wycombe Wanderers. Morecambe currently sat in 21st, the final place of that relegation zone. They currently sat on 24 points, 3 points away from that one place above relegation, 3 points adrift in that danger zone. Last 5 games, a little bit inconsistent. 2 defeats, 2 draws, and a win, so a little bit all over the shop when it comes to consistency. But they've got a win in there. They've got 3 points, they've actually got 5 points. They've got 2 more draws in there as well. They need to try and get himself out of what is a difficult situation at the moment. The thing that is going to be slightly worrying is they've played 26 games, and the teams like AFC Wimbledon are above them are on 24 games played. So there are teams with they play more games and a few teams around them, which will be a little bit of a concern. And an even bigger concern is this game this weekend against Wycombe, a really good side who bullied Oxford United for, I'd say, the majority of the game, and made Oxford United not look that great. They stopped Oxford United in so many different ways. They were fantastic. They scored a fantastic goal, but they looked well organised, they looked well structured, as they always do in the Gareth Ainsworth, a real unit, a real body of a football inside, and they did that very well against Oxford. They got a well-deserved win, and they're top of the league. So it's going to be a really difficult game for Morecambe. Like I said, they're a team that are in the relegation zone at the moment, want to get out there as soon as possible if they can. They are struggling with consistency. I think this is just a Wycombe win, and I think it will be quite a straightforward win for Wycombe. Again, you can't predict anything in this league, and this is why I preview and predict them, but I have no idea. No one can read the future. It's so difficult to predict. But I think Wycombe are going to win the game. I'm going to go with 3-1. I think if Wycombe play anything like they did against Oxford, I think they're going to steamroll Morecambe, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. And that doesn't sound very nice, but I mean that in the nicest way I possibly can. Next at Oxford United at the Kassam Stadium, they host Sheffield Wednesday, 7th and 8th. 7th versus 8th. This is going to be really, really quite interesting. Oxford come into this game with not great form. A defeat against Wycombe, a defeat before that as well against Lincoln City, and a draw before that against Cheltenham. So no win in the last 3 games. A little bit of a concern, a bit of a blip that Oxford United find themselves in the moment. Not a great time to have a blip playing against a rival to trying to get into that top 6 in Sheffield Wednesday, who have won the last game before that, got 2 defeats. So they're a little bit inconsistent as well. Both sides have lost games in the last 5. Sheffield Wednesday have lost 1 less, but still, like I said, there's inconsistency with both sides. 7th versus 8th, both teams trying to get into the top 6. Both teams want to creep into that top 6 with wins. Both teams are going to need wins and want wins as well. A really good expected crowd for this game as well. So the Oxford players will be really, really backed, but we know how big of a club Sheffield Wednesday are. They will have fantastic travelling support. So it's going to be really, really interesting. It's so difficult to predict. I hate predicting Oxford United games. I can see a draw in this one. Oxford need to win. It sounds silly that we need to beat Sheffield Wednesday, but we do. They're 8th in the league. They're like Oxford trying to get into that top 6. This is a must-win game. With the form we're currently on, we need to win this game. So, but I'm not going to predict to win because I just can't see it at the moment. From what I can see, we're not going to win it. I'm going to go the draw, and I'm going to go with 2-2. I can see high scoring. I can see there being goals in this game, but I don't think either side who need wins will actually get the win. It's going to be interesting though. Next, then we've got Plymouth Argyle against Lincoln City. Plymouth are currently sat in a really, really respectable position of 6th place. Of course, they had a fantastic start to the season. They lost their manager, but recently, there has been a slight drop off, as you can imagine, when someone like Ryan Lowe, who has such influence and started the season so well, leaves the club. There will, of course, be a slight drop off, but generally, Plymouth are still in a really, really good, promising place and still in very, very good contention for top 6. Of course, their dream is to continue in that, in that position as well and finish the season in the top 6, and so far they are in that top 6. They lost their most recent game, but before that they were in really quite good form with 2 wins before. But like I said, a little bit of drop off, a little bit of a consistency drop, but what do you expect? Ryan Lowe, who was fantastic with Plymouth, started the season so well with Plymouth, of course, left the club. But Schumacher's come in, and I think he's done fairly well. There hasn't been a major drop-off. There's been a slight drop-off, but generally, they're still in the top 6. They will always now have that hope and expectation. Maybe not expectation, maybe ambition to stay in that top 6. That should be the aim for Plymouth. I think it still will be. They're hosting a side, Lincoln City, who I think are slowly improving. But and I say that in a way that before their most recent game, I thought Lincoln City are going to be a real force now. They're going to climb up. They're going to really, maybe even put a push in, a late push for top 6. It sounded silly because we played them when we lost 2-0. They just signed Morgan Whittaker, their first signing of the window. They're in the relegation zone. But now they're in 18th. But before that, we're looking at 14th. It's so tight down there. They were about 15th, 14th after their win against Sunderland. And then they lost their most recent game in what's a quite shock result against Cambridge United. Is it a shock? Maybe so. I mean, it was at home against Cambridge United, and very, very disappointing. So there will be a sense of disappointment there for sure. And for Michael Appleton, he'll probably see that as, I guess, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's a strange saying, but in general terms, 2 steps forward with the 2 wins, and then a disappointing step back. They need to start climbing the ladder. They need to start climbing those steps to try and get into that top 6, or maybe not try and get top 6. That might be going a bit too far, but make this a respectable season and try and get around the mid-table, sort of get yourself between 10th and 7th, 11th, that sort of area, and they could really do that. And then a disappointing result against Cambridge United. They've made good additions. They are looking really, really good. They're looking like they're getting better in the market, and they are bringing in some really, really exciting players. They brought in Cullen on loan from Swansea City. So they are really adding additions to the squad that I think could be really, really quite impressive. And like I said, against the Plymouth side, who have had a slight drop-off, but generally are still in that top 6. Both teams come into this game with a defeat. I can see a draw in this one. I'm going to go with 1-1. I think they're going to draw this game 1-1. Lincoln City is still a force to watch out for. Some great players in that squad, no doubt. A great manager. And I think against a side like Plymouth, who aren't at their best or have been better this season. Yeah, I'm going to go with 1-1. I think Plymouth 1, Lincoln City 1 is the result I'm going to predict there. Next then, we've got Rotherham United against Cheltenham Town. Rotherham are currently sat in 4th in the league, lost their most recent game, and again, quite a shock result, a little bit disappointing for Rotherham. I'd say very disappointing, losing away from home against Fleetwood Town, but that shows the fantastic form that Fleetwood are in, a great side that Fleetwood are building at the moment. But still a disappointing result, and they've had a few of them this season. Rotherham have dropped some silly games and lost some silly games this season, and Fleetwood was one of those. They've lost the last game, like I said. They won the game before that, and then lost the game before that, so there's a little bit of inconsistency creeping into Rotherham at the moment. But I think this game against Cheltenham, who are well organised and who are doing very, very well, they're in 14th. It could be quite interesting in terms of Cheltenham's form. They've had 5 games, of course. When we look at that block of 5, they haven't won. They've drawn the last 3. So in terms of form, they're not in the best place, but they're in a really good position in the league. 14th in the league for Cheltenham. They'll certainly take that. But I think Rotherham are going to win this game, and I'm going to go with Rotherham 2, Cheltenham Town 0. Next, then, we've got Shrewsbury Town against Bolton Wanderers. Shrewsbury Town are currently sat in 16th, so a really quite decent position for Shrewsbury Town, probably where you expect them to be. And Bolton Wanderers, who are currently sat in 17th, but a really, really good win to sort of eventually solve their bad form they're on. Before that, they were in really quite poor form and struggling to get some results on the table, but they are now getting that, and the last game against Ipswich, a fantastic win for them, 2-0. They look really, really quite good, and we're seeing some additions at Bolton now in terms of the January transfer window, which again you can see is improving this Bolton side really, really well, which makes this game really quite difficult to predict. A Shrewsbury side who, in terms of form, are doing again very, very well. Two sides now that are coming into this game, with Bolton coming into this game with a win, but Shrewsbury coming into this game with a draw. But Shrewsbury long-term block of 5 form has been really, really quite impressive. They're doing really well at the moment, so really quite impressed with them. Like I said, Bolton, I mean, if Bolton had got a poor result against Ipswich Town, I think I would have really favoured Shrewsbury heavily, but now Bolton comes to this game with good form. This is really quite difficult to predict. I'm going to go with, it's touch and go between a draw and Bolton winning, if I'm going to be honest. I think Bolton have the better team. I'm going to go with 2-2. 2-2 in this game. I'm making up as I go along. Predictions are so difficult to make because this league, as it's proved, is so unpredictable. Who's going to predict Fleetwood to beat Rotherham? It's impossible to do. But we're trying to preview, trying to make a discussion. We're trying to think about it as we go. I'm going to go with 1-1 in this game. I'm going to go with Shrewsbury 1, Bolton 1. Who would take that more? Probably Shrewsbury. Because Bolton are going to want to try and get another win, and like I said, they're going to try and climb up and want to climb up as quickly as possible. They started off really well. Big drop off. They're going to try and want to get that climb. I'm going to go the draw though. So next at the end, Sunderland against Portsmouth. Really quite interesting game. A huge game in this league. Sunderland are currently sat in 3rd, and the last 3 games haven't been the best. A draw coming into this game, a loss before that, and then a draw before that. And interestingly for Portsmouth, the last 3 games have been exactly the same. So this is going to be quite a fascinating game. Really, really quite interested to get into it. But Portsmouth, they've made additions. They've made some really good additions as well. Sunderland have added a player or 2 into their squad. I believe Trey Hume joined the club as well, which is really good. And they've signed Bath from Stoke. But I generally think I've been really quite impressed with what they've done in terms of in the market so far for Sunderland. But most importantly with Portsmouth, signing in Carter, I believe it was on loan from Blackburn. I believe that's where he's come from. I've been so impressed with that, and also the signing on loan from Coventry City, Walker. So impressed with that loan signing as well. Both sides have made additions. They've both made some really good additions to the squad, and going into this game is going to make it all that more interesting. Last 3 games of both sides have been exactly the same. They haven't been great. No win in the last 3. But I think this game is going to be I can see it being a high-scoring game in which both teams actually come away with a point each. I can see this being a draw, and I'm going to go with 2-2. I'm going to go with another 2-2 this game. I'm going to go Sunderland 2, Portsmouth 2. Yeah, I can see it being interesting. Really, really interesting. I think Sunderland could win this game, but I think it's going to be 2-2. I'm going to go Sunderland 2, Portsmouth 2. Next, and we've got Wigan against Gillingham. Wigan are currently sat in 2nd in the league and doing a really good job. Of course, their form has been absolutely phenomenal, as you expect. They've got games in hand, and quite a few games in hand. A lot of teams, they could easily go top and probably go clear by about 8 points when they play all their games. And this is a game that Wigan are going to be really looking forward to, because Gillingham are in an absolute state at the moment. They haven't got a manager yet. They're looking to bring in a few names. Evans, of course, left the football club. It was for a while thought they would leave and sort of part ways. Evans, they're speaking to Woodman for a new management role. It's difficult. It's a difficult time for Gillingham at the moment. No manager, a really worrying position in the league. Awful form, one from bottom. It's not a nice place to be. And for Wigan, I think they're going to capitalise on it. I think we're going to win this game fairly comfortably. I'm going to go with Wigan 4, Gillingham 0. I expect Gillingham to win this game really quite comfortably. Ladies and gentlemen, those are my predictions. Of course, give your thoughts in the comments down below. Unpredictable League One, so difficult to predict, but I want to hear it from you in the comments. Get down below, give your thoughts to all of these games. I can't wait to hear what you've got to say. And yeah, let's get on with it. Let's see what you've got to say in the comments down below. Until next time, though, ladies and gentlemen, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care.